Don't ask your questions piecemeal. A prime example, and I'm not going to be outing anyone. I was thinking about a good example of how this has happened to me in the past. And so this is the way it progresses. Hey, Chris, I need a gun for my character. Okay. I ask a couple of questions and make a suggestion. Well, how would that work if they're wearing big, heavy gloves? Okay, well, let's talk about the big, heavy glove issue. And we talk about big, heavy gloves and firing the pistol. Okay, that's great. Now, what about the scuba mask? What? The scuba mask, because this fight is taking place underwater. No. No, you don't want to do that. Well, why not? And then we have to have a conversation about firing guns underwater, which is the conversation that we should have had in the first place.
Yeah.
So we wasted 5 to 20 minutes of time talking about different guns, talking about their character's expertise, talking about use with gloves, and all of these other things until we hit the crux, which is, I want to use my gun underwater. Can I do it? And that's what we should have led with. Fall into this trap all the time, as much as I know that I shouldn't. Somebody will send me an email and say, hey, Chris, I got this going on. And without asking for any context or any further questions, I'll make an assumption. I'll say, oh, you asked me this, so it must mean, based on my experience, that you want to do this. So, for example, how would you waterproof a weapon? Oh, well, there's several ways to waterproof a weapon, and that means that you must be deliberately wanting to go into the water with your weapon, which suggests a whole slew of issues that you're going to have, not necessarily just with the gun, but with other equipment. So I'm going to talk about maybe SEALs or Special Forces scuba guys or small boat teams infiltrating into a denied area, and this is how they protect their weapons, and this is everything that you would want to do because of it. Now, that was my assumption, and I spent, a couple of hours writing up how you do all this stuff. This is how you're going to waterproof. These are the actions you're going to take once you get to land. These are the actions you're going to take to maintain the pistol or the rifle later. Blah, 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 blah. And then I send that off, and that's great information. I might use it later. But the character just happens to fall in a lake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should have told me they were just falling into a lake, because if you pull the gun out of the water and you rinse it off and you clean it, you don't have to worry about waterproofing a weapon. You're asking a subject matter expert, so you may not necessarily know that what you're asking, they infer a whole set of circumstances based on their expertise. So you ask, how do I waterproof a weapon? I think it's deliberate. It ends up being accidental, and nothing is needed to be done. So when you go to ask a subject matter expert a question, bring as much context into it right off the bat as possible. This will allow the subject matter expert to more efficiently answer the question, thus saving you and the expert more time. And your expert won't get frustrated. You won't end up with a 15 email chain when it could have been simply done in one email. So if going back to my first example, I have a character, they end up underwater in a scuba dive, and he has a pistol and he wants to kill the bad guy. What do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you may or may not have chosen the firearm yet. So the leading question was, hey, here's my firearms expert. I need to get a gun. But that's not the real question that you want to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you want to get a gun suggestion, but if you're going to throw a character into a situation, describe that situation, because it's mostly more important than the nuts and bolts of the equipment you're going to use.